Hello everyone, Ozzy here, and welcome back to the Opulent Life. Today we are going to be doing another unboxing, and this time it is a watch. And yes, as the title says it, this is the Swatch Moonswatch version. I finally got my hands on one, and today the one that I bought for myself is the Mission to Mercury edition. Now, this is not a new release. This was released about last year, and the whole world went crazy basically. So what it is a collaboration between Swatch and Omega for their famous and iconic watch, their chronograph, the Speedmaster. So the original Speedmaster is obviously in all metal, comes in a bracelet, many different variations, many different special editions have come out. There's countless versions out there, the Snoopy being the most famous ones, but they're all in the $4,000, $5,000 above range. If you buy them new. Used, maybe you can snag some for around $2,000, $2,500 depending on condition, maybe even as low as $1,500 if it's really old and not in good condition. But that's the baseline. So for the average collector, that's still a pretty hefty fee. Someone who's starting out in watches, doesn't have a big budget, they can probably never get their hands on a Speedmaster, but until then. But now that Swatch, because Swatch Group owns all these brands, Omega, Blancpain, Tissot, Hamilton, Longines, Mido, even Breguet, and several others, they all come under the Swatch Group umbrella, and Swatch itself has its own brand. So Swatch thought, hey, let's collaborate with Omega, make this more accessible, which is a great idea. And honestly, it made it a lot more accessible for a lot of us, because this watch retails for around $270 US. With taxes cost me around like 277. However, when this came out, it was supposed to be an in-store only version. But then they said no, it'll be available online, but then it never came online. It was only if you went into a store you could get it, and then they sold out so fast. There were lines, there were riots, there was a lot of stuff going on in their Manhattan store and all the other stores actually. So it was impossible to get your hands on one because of the limited supply. But so for example, this Mission to Mercury, this was on the secondary market for about as high as $1,500 to $2,000, which is insane because this watch is made of bioceramic, which is essentially plastic. But that's the story behind it. And but now, as time went on, these became more and more available. And I got this from, I still didn't get this from the US store. I had to go to Toronto in the Canadian store and buy it from there. So from their authorized dealership, they actually had this one in stock. So I was like, you know what, let's snag it. Well, it's still on retail. Now, on retail is $270, but if you can't find it in the US and you go on Chrono24, for example, you can find an average price of about $400, $450 right now. Highest I've seen is like $650 maybe, and the lowest I've seen is like maybe $375. So somewhere in the still range. I mean, even if you buy it on retail, you still, I mean, if you're looking at investments, which I don't, you may be able to get this up to like a couple $100 more than what it is, which is insane, I still think. But it's a great value, and we're going to talk about this in a second. But let's look at the packaging real quick. So on the top it says Mission to Mercury Bioceramic Moon Swatch Collection. So it's basically the Omega Speedmaster is called the Moon Watch because it's the watch that went into space and NASA astronauts wore it. So the Speedmaster is the Moon Watch basically, and they've come out with many different versions of this. So Mercury is one of them, and then therefore the collaboration says Moon Swatch. So the S is for the Swatch and Moon is for the Moon Watch in the collection. So it's a gray box. On the side you can see the symbol of Omega and Swatch Group together, collaborating together and forming this union. You have the same on the side as well. On the front of the box you can see some information about the planet Mercury from the solar system, which is the nearest planet to the sun in our solar system. Temperature 169 degrees Celsius. It's got powerful magnetic fields. Of course, it's closest to the sun. It's got a lot of metal. It's got a huge metal core. and it is narrowing. So if you're a planet aficionado, you know that it is slowly narrowing as we speak. On the back end, on this side, actually on the back side, you have that 1 day on Mercury lasts 59 days on Earth, which is a staggering, which is almost 2 months. So 2 months on Earth is 1 day in Mercury, which is astounding to know. And then on the bottom end, you can see the different versions they have available. You have all the way from the Sun to Pluto. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Moon, the Moonwatch actual. You have Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. So for all of these, I'll just give you a brief overview of what they are. So Mission to Sun is more yellow, so a little bit more oriented towards females and ladies. Mission to Mercury is the one we have. We're going to look at it right now. Mission to Venus is again more female oriented. Mission on Earth is actually a nice one. It has green and blue vibes, so that's nice as well. Mission to the Moon looks like the actual Speedmaster. No changes except for the fact that this is bioceramic. So this one is pretty much identical to the actual Speedmaster that you would buy in a retail Omega store. Mission to Mars is a little bit different. It's kind of like more unisex. Mission to Jupiter's is also more unisex. Mission to Saturn is actually a nice one. I actually like that. If I was not to buy Mercury, I would this would have been my second choice. Mission to Uranus and Mission to Neptune. The Mission to Uranus is very female oriented, and the next one, Mission to Neptune, is very blue, a little too blue, a little bit childish, I think. Mission to Pluto is also a nice one, so that would have been third on my list. And so that's the overview of the collection. Let's open it up. I've done enough talking now, so let's take a look at what's inside the box. Let's actually push this out. There we go. Take off this cardboard box, and then inside you have another black box which doesn't have much on it except for this Omega Swatch collaboration symbols on both sides. On the bottom you have barcodes and some recycling logos. Okay, here it is. This is the watch. I'm gonna put the receipt to the side here. This is the classic Swatch. So that's the guarantee card. This is the classic Swatch booklet. Always comes in a newspaper fashion, which outlines all the functions and everything that is in the watch. If this is your first watch, you might want to go through it, but as you can see, it's huge, and there's not really a huge need to go through all of that. I'm just gonna put this to the side and fold it up later. What else we got in the box? We have the other models that I was talking about. Actually, should have shown you this instead. So these are all laid out, so you can see the Sun, the Mercury one, the Venus, Earth, you have the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Okay, and then on the back end you have Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And then this is just telling you some information about the watch itself. We're going to go over all of these pieces of information as we review the watch. Okay, so I'm just going to put it to the side here, take the watch out of its case. It's all paper, so they're kind of going with the green theme, environmental social governance models. So you can take this out. It's actually kind of stuck in there. There you go. Got stuck on my glove actually. So here it is actually, and I'm just gonna actually hold it like this so it's easier to understand. So here it is then, the Moonswatch Mercury Edition. I'm gonna take off the plastic because it just doesn't look nice with it. It's harder to review. Okay, so here it is. Now let's start with the basics. So as you know, the case is made of what they call bioceramic, which is essentially plastic. But it's a nice feeling plastic. It doesn't feel super cheap or something, but it is plastic and it is not metal. It's not replicating metal. It looks nice, but I gotta tell you, it does feel like it's plastic. So don't get your hopes super high. Now, real quick, the serial number, model number for this watch is SO33A100. Just so you guys know, the diameter of this watch is 42 millimeters. Thickness is about 13.25 millimeters. That's listed on the Swatch website. The lug to lug is about 47.3 millimeters. So pretty average size, and it can pretty much fit all wrists. And I'm going to put it on my wrist in a second after I'm done reviewing all of the details of this watch. So it is a quartz movement. It's not automatic, so don't expect fancy automatic movements here. This is a basic Swiss quartz movement. It's only the water resistance is only 30 meters, and which is equivalent to 3 bar. It's a Velcro gray metallic looking strap. As you can see, it has Velcro over here, so, and it's got a little bit bent, but you can see on this has a metallic sheen to it, so it's almost like silver gray in color, and it says Speedmaster Moonswatch Mission to Mercury, and this will change depending on the watch that you buy, the planet version that you get. You have the Omega signage here, so it is overall nice, but of course with time, I expect, if you actually use this watch a lot, I expect this to wear out, and then you may be in need of another strap. They don't have any drill lugs here, so that's a disadvantage. You're gonna have to use some tools to take this out and change straps, and then the problem is that you will lose all of this signage once you change the strap. But that's the price you pay when you change straps. There is a little bit of that element lost of originality. All right, now coming to the dial. So the dial, this is not sapphire crystal. This is plastic, or would you say Hesselite. They call it Hesselite on Omega Speedmaster, but here it's just basic acrylic, if I'm not mistaken. Right, so now that we've established that this is acrylic, you have to be very careful with this one, because this is not scratch proof material. If you use your watch a lot and you have a tendency of banging this into things, the scratches will show. And I have experienced this on a previous Swatch that I had, the 007 Goldfinger version, which I sold. Same, it was pretty much the same material, and it was prone to scratching a lot. So be very careful. You may need to buff out those scratches as they come, because if they accumulate, you're gonna have a tough time getting rid of them. Now, since I bought this watch on a Black Friday, they gave me a special deal. Now the special deal is what? Unlimited refinishing on, unlimited buffing and refinishing of this crystal, because they know it's gonna get scratched. It's prone to it. And they also offered me free battery replacement for life, which is great. Now I don't need to worry about buying batteries every 2-3 years. And Swatch batteries can cost quite a bit overall in the long term. So it's good that that part is settled. So that's why I don't mind the quartz on this. It's a done deal. I will have batteries for life from their store, of course. Okay, so that's the crystal. Now let's talk about the bezel. The bezel has a tachymeter from all the way from 60 to 500 miles, and this is in miles an hour. You have the classic dot over 90, which everyone talks about and is part of their signage and branding. Very important, very significant. When we have an actual moon watch, I'll talk more about it, because if I talk too much about it, then that's extra detail that you're probably not interested in right now. It's more to do with history and the moon landing and things like that. So you have the dot over 90. What else you have? Now this bezel, this is also plastic. So it's the tachymeter counter is actually a sticker pasted on this plastic case. You don't really have a ceramic, aluminum, or any stainless steel type of ring on the outside. So that's also, I mean, you gotta understand, this watch is $270. If you were to make all of those materials in premium finish and premium metals, the cost will go up, and that was not what they wanted. They wanted it to stay under the $300 mark. so that you and I and everyone else can easily afford it and don't have to think twice about it. So you gotta come in with your expectations managed on this one. All right, so that's the best. Let's talk a little bit about the lugs. They're very nicely designed. I like the swooping angle, classic Omega style. It's not a super thick watch either, so, and it's got that vintage vibe with the acrylic giving that distortion of light. So that's something that I really like. Now let's talk about the dial. The dial is, on the camera it may be looking really dark and black, but this is actually dark gray. So you have an outer ring with all the counters on it. This one does have loom, and I'm going to show you a loom shot soon. So those are all loomed, and you have those counters all the way, all those minute counters, and the hour counters are the ones that are loomed. The minute counters are not loomed, just so you know. So there's an outer ring that's black for the counters, and then the inner dial is dark gray. Then you have 3 sub dials. You have one for the chronograph minutes, then you have one for the seconds of the watch. So this sub dial over here at 6 o'clock, these are measuring the seconds for your actual time. This one here is for what I talked about, is for the chronograph minutes. The chronograph seconds is measured by the big seconds hand here, which is stationary right now at the 12 marker. Okay. Now here you have a centisecond counter. So if I start this watch, so you have start stop buttons here, classic chronograph design. You press it, it starts. So now the second counter is moving in quartz fashion, and this will register. I'm going to actually run a minute so you can see the whole rotation of it in a second. So now that that's moved, you can see the Omega and Swatch brands listed in the center top. Now they've made the Omega a little bit larger than the Swatch because that's the highlights, the Speedmaster design. So the primary branding is Omega, and then you have the Swatch collaboration right below it. You have the Omega symbol, like it. And then on the 9 o'clock you have the Speedmaster symbol written, the signage written, and then you have the Moonswatch on the 3 o'clock. Now as it passed, now also the minute and the hour count hands are also loomed along with the seconds counter. Now you saw after it crossed the 60-second mark, the 1 minute moved for the left sub dial. Now I'm going to stop it with the top button. Actually, I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, so now this time you see that the counter on the right hand side actually moved and stopped at 2. That's the centisecond. So right now, for example, if you look at it, you have 14 seconds here. So it would be 14.2 seconds because that's actually referring to 1 decimal place. So 1 minute, 14.2 seconds. It is pretty accurate. That's good. And then if you want to reset it, just press the bottom button. They all go back to 1. Classic quartz design. Now the crown does have some signage on it as well. It's the same as we saw in the box, Omega and Swatch. You can take it out, and it's there's no other function. There's no date function or something on it, so it just adjusts the time if you want to. And then also I forgot to mention, these hour markers are simple bar style, nothing fancy about them, painted white. And yeah, so that is a very nice, detailed, easygoing dial. Nothing super complicated about it, but it looks really nice on the wrist, and we're gonna try it out in a second. Now let's check the loom. Now to check out the loom, I'm actually gonna use my UV light torch. So let's turn it on and try to charge it up, and then see how it looks in a second. Just give it a few more seconds. All right, now let's take a look. I do have blue lighting in the background, so there you go. That's nice, super luminova, very, very visible, very, very clear. And yeah, so this is what it would look like if you are in space on a ship with blue lighting. Right, back to light. Now, so you looked at the loom, looks pretty nice. let's talk about the back side. Actually, I'm gonna take this out. So on the back side, you have the same bioceramic, but what you also have that I find really cool is an impression of the planet Mercury. In a regular swatch, this would actually be a place where you take this portion out and put in the battery. But they replace it with the Mercury impression, and I find that amazing. I love it. So again, it says Swiss made, of course, a Swiss made watch, water resistant, 4 joules, V8. This is their classic movement. Okay, so what else does it say? It says, reach for the planets, enjoy the mission, dream big, fly higher. And over here it says, explore the universe. Very cool. Then you have some information about the Mercury. I don't exactly know what this stands for over here, but it must mean something related to planets. And then, so you just loop it through here. I'm just gonna put it on, see how it looks like. Got it. Fine. Is you will have a little bit of a bulge here, and that's classic of straps like this and NATO straps. It's very comfortable, as you can see. It looks very nice on the wrist. Well, I have a 6 3/4 inch wrist, so fits perfectly fine. No issues at all. Take this off. And then, so yeah, so we talked about the profiles, very slim, very sleek. And this is definitely something you can wear both casual and semi-formal. Some of the other versions are a bit more casual. This one and the Moon version is something you can kind of pull off in different situations and is more versatile. So that's why I liked it. I thought that if I would buy the other ones, I'd be very limited. But I don't think I'm that big of a solar system fan to go around collecting all of these, but there are certainly guys who will be doing that, and if you are one of those, then power to you. So we were talking about dot over 90, so it's very, very subtle. You can see it over here, the dot over 90. People make a big deal about it. Personally, I don't, but it is something important in the collector community. For those of you who are actually very interested in the material, now they say it's bioceramic. A lot of YouTubers are just calling it plastic, and I thought the same too, but I did a little bit more of a deep dive into the material, and I found out that it's not simple as it may seem. It's not just plastic. There's a reason they call it bioceramic. The reason is that it is 1/3 biosourced plastic and 2/3 of it is ceramic. The ceramic portion is easy to understand. It's zirconium dioxide, 2/3, and it's the same material you'd find in ceramic watches, but 1/3 of it is actually plastic. Now it's biosourced plastic from castor oil, so that's the bit of an oxymoron, that if it's plastic, how is it bio? But it's biosourced plastic. So I'm not a chemistry expert, but that's what the information says. Now if you look very closely, I don't think the camera is going to capture this, but you see a little bit of flicker of a light over here in the center. That's actually an S symbol that's etched into the plastic to ensure that this is an authentic moon swatch. So yeah, so you see here, I try to zoom in a little bit. This camera is not up to spec for giving you that detail, but it's over here, and those of you who have it in person have seen it for sure. Detail. So these subdials are stepped. It may look like it's flat from this video, but if you look at it from angles, you can see it is a stepped dial, which is good. And this crown, of course, it's not a screw down crown because there's nothing to screw down. It's just not a super water resistant watch. Getting into the specifics of the movement used, it is an ETA movement. Specifically speaking, it's an ETA G10.212. So that's the one they used in this. Like any quartz watch, you can adjust the position of these subdials and the second counter by taking out the crown and then using these buttons to adjust the position forward and backwards. Another interesting thing here, some of you guys are familiar with the term Rattrapant, which is split timer function. that's in very, very expensive automatic chronographs. Well, guess what? You're getting that here, but not in the regular sense. You don't have like double dials or anything. You have a split timer that's built in. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you in a second. So I'm going to turn on the chronograph and see how it's going on. Now, if I were to pause it by not using the top button, but the bottom button, let's pause it, okay? So here you go. So you have it paused, but it's still counting the time. It hasn't stopped completely. Now, after a while, if I were to press the top button again, not the top button actually, if I push the bottom button again, it's actually gonna do a catch-up. See how cool that is? So to repeat, you have a split timer built in. How do you activate it? You will press the top button. No, not the top button actually. Let's do a full reset first. You will press to use the split timer function. Press the top button to start the timer. Okay. Keep going. Then you press the bottom button to pause it only visually. It's actually still going on in the background. And then to get the actual elapsed time, you press the bottom button a second time and see what happens. It does a catch-up, which is super cool. Try getting that function in an automatic watch less than, I don't know, 20 grand. Be my guest. Not gonna happen unless you go for used. So, and it is a rather loud movement. I do hear the machine sounds if you're in a silent room, so that's something to keep in mind too. That was a quick unboxing and review of the Omega Swatch Moonswatch Speedmaster Mercury Edition. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and if you did, please do like, share, subscribe. I'm going to post a link in the description below to the Swatch website where you can look at it and find out more details if you'd like. But I think I pretty much covered everything of this watch in terms of specs, and I do highly recommend it if you are a solar system fan. If you're a fan of the Speedmaster but you don't have the budget to go for the full version, I would recommend getting one of the planet versions, or just getting the moon version, which is the closest representation. Now, also, please do note that this is not a one-to-one exact copy. As you can see, the minute counters and the subdials are not what you would see in an actual Speedmaster. It is different, and it's for a reason. That's called cost. You want a $270 version of a $5,000 watch, you're gonna have to cut some corners. You can't get the same thing. So keep your expectations in mind. I have kept my expectations according to $300 or $207, and I am pleasantly surprised. Another thing that may put some people off, this strap may not necessarily be the most comfortable for some people. So you may have to play around with strap options, and when you do that, you do lose a lot of all this signage. So that's another thing. If you don't like the strap at all, I would suggest, you know, if you're okay with the different strap on this, which I would not be, then go for it. If you can live with the strap, then for sure it's going to be fine. So yeah, that was my review. Take care, guys. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.